Since the war ended, we have been introduced to numerous entrepreneurs who have invented many useful items, such as the computers that we use, to the site that we download our videos to all types of social media platforms. However, I felt it might be more interesting to comment on an entrepreneur who is little to virtually unknown. His name is Jerome Lemelson. Born in 1923, Lemelson would go on to receive 3 degrees from New York University, all in some form of engineering. When he died in 1997, Lemelson had patented over 560 inventions. This placed him second to Thomas Edison in patents awarded. So how is it that a man who performed such work has been overlooked? Well, that's what makes this story interesting and possibly why so little has been written about him. Most of what Lemelson invented went on to become components of VCRs, fax machines, cordless phones, cassette players, automatic warehousing systems, robotics, automated teller machines, and the Sony Walkman. The most important invention, at least to Lemelson, was the machine vision and the barcode scanning technology that we use everywhere today. Eventually, a company in England paid him $100,000 for his automatic warehousing system. And then Sony gave Lemelson his first large financial break when it paid him $2 million for the technology that eventually went into the Walkman. IBM would soon pay him another $1 million for his patents on data and word processing technology. However, the early years before all this occurred were pretty lean and difficult times. When he was in his mid-30s, he left his last employer to become an independent inventor, working 12, 14, 16-hour days in his upstairs studies. He would create ideas that would turn into patents. Yes, I said create ideas. As Lemelson said in a 1988 interview, I don't see a need for building models of everything I've invented or spending the time and money on models. I know they're helpful in promoting and licensing inventions, but they're not always necessary. Lemelson created his inventions from his ideas and in his notebook, and from there would file the proper paperwork to receive a patent. And many of these patents were for items that would not be available to the public for decades. But Lemelson would often go back and revise his ideas and update the patent, enabling the patent to remain in force. A large lawsuit stemmed from an idea of his using a plastic track and car assembly toy, basically. Mattel Toys brought the Hot Wheels idea to the market years later. Lemelson sued Mattel, and a jury agreed with him, and they awarded him a $70 million judgment. Now, Mattel appealed the verdict, and while still going through the dispute, they offered Lemelson $20 million, which he refused. And while the verdict was still being discussed, the offer increased to $50 million. And then the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals came back with a verdict vacating the initial $70 million. So Lemelson lost all the cash offers in this case and walked away empty-handed. In this case, and in many others, his ego often got the better of him. Lemelson would go on to file multiple lawsuits over the years to protect his ideas, and he would win many of these cases. For inventors, he was their hero, but for business entities, they considered him a fraud. Critics charged that he had manipulated the patent office, exploiting loopholes and patent laws, which eventually forced over 950 companies to pay him somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 billion in license fees. His patents he received for items not developed for decades have often been referred to as submarine patents because they were not known to exist at the time that an item was finally produced. And it was then that Lemelson would sue the manufacturers for infringement and not paying the licensing fee. Many corporations were often unaware of this and were obviously upset by the implications and the payouts. Another of his patents, hidden in paperwork for almost 4 decades, and finally granted in 1992, was for one of the machine vision and barcoding reading machines. At the time, the Japanese automakers were utilizing this process. The new patent laws had come into play, which allowed Lemelson to sue the Japanese automakers. Now, their reluctance to get caught up in court battles led many of these Japanese automakers to go ahead and pay Lemelson. And in the end, the amount totaled around $450 million. Lemelson was a prolific inventor, even though he did not necessarily produce any of the products he designed. However, he did reap the financial rewards of his ideas. The financial windfall allowed him and his wife, Dorothy, to perform philanthropic work. They established the Lemelson MIT Prize, administered by Massachusetts Institute of Technology. In addition, they've established what's known as e-schools at Hampshire College and the University of Nevada, Reno. And this is where engineering students and faculty identify something that needs to be created for or improved for the quality of humankind. And finally, they would give the Smithsonian Institute $10.5 million for the Jerome and Dorothy Lemelson Center for the Study of Invention and Innovation. Here, children can come and work on ideas at this particular center. Lemelson was certainly a prolific inventor, but his largest gift as a philanthropic work his finances have gone to support. From the Smithsonian to the E-teams, his money still works at creating new and creative ideas and inventions.